Hello, folks. So, in the last video, we have built one to-do list backend API in Rust using the Axum web framework. And in this video, we will be building one client using Vanilla.js. And in the process, we will also encounter some CORS issues. And we will see how we can tackle that by adding some more lines of code in our Rust backend. But before doing any of that, I would like to show you the current state of our app. So I will open my Postman. And here I have three routes: the get to-dos, post to-do, and the delete to-do. So if I do a get to-dos, I will get the two default to-dos that I have already added. And now I'm trying to do one post to-do and I have a title write Python. If I do a send, I have ID 3 with the write Python. Ideally, it should have been ID of 2, but because I was playing with the app, so ID 2 got added and then removed. So stuff happened over there. So let me do one more addition. Let me do write JS and do a send. So we have ID of 4 and write JS. Now, if I do get to-dos, so we have four to-dos, so with ID 0, 1, 3, and 4. Now, I can also delete to-dos, so I will go to delete to-do. And right now, we don't have a to-do with ID of 2, so we will do delete the to-do with ID of 3, which is, I believe, our Python. Yeah. Now, if I do get to-dos once again, so we have write Rust, TypeScript, and JavaScript. So this is how our app works right now, and this is something that we discussed in the last video. In case you haven't watched that, it is highly recommended to watch that first and then come back in this video because we will be writing some code for our course right now. And I will start by doing some imports. So from Axum, I will import HTTP and method from HTTP. Then I will import from tower HTTP CORS, and from CORS I will import any and CORS layer. I think that's all for the imports. Now inside our main method, I will create a variable called CORS, which is basically our CORS layer new. Now here we have allow methods, basically methods we are willing to allow, and also allow origin, basically from which URLs you are willing to like accept requests. And this will be any for now because this is our dev environment. Ideally, in production, we shouldn't be having this, and that's why we have course issues and stuff. We will see when we are building the client. For now, inside our allow methods, we will be adding method, and let's say we want our get, and method, we want our post. I think that's good for now. And then inside our app, we have router new, and we are adding our MC clone. And here we also want to add our basically layer. So I will do dot layer, and I will pass my course layer permissive. So this will resolve all of our course issues. So now let's get started with building our client. So inside my to-do list Axum folder, I will create another folder and I will name it simple client. And inside this folder, I will be having index.html. Let me also add the boilerplate. Then one style.css and then one script.js. Very simple stuff. And inside my index.html, I will also be linking my CSS file, and inside the body at the end, I will be linking my JavaScript file also. So I think that's good for now. Let me change the title to to-do list Rust. Okay, good, good. Now I have opened everything in the live server. Now inside the body, I will be having one heading. So I will write to-do list Rust, and then let me add one input. The type will be text, and let me give a placeholder as enter to do. I think it's good for now. And then we will be having one button. Let's give the ID of the button as add, and we can simply write add. Okay, good for now. And then we simply have to add our to-dos. That's all. So I will create one class called to-do, and inside the class we will have one paragraph. This will be, let's say, one dummy to-do, right? Yes. And then we will be having one button for our delete. So the ID, we cannot give ID actually because there will be repetition. So we can give a class. And let me name the class as delete. And we can also write delete over here. So this is something that we have in pure HTML. So now let's add some styles. And I will start by changing the font family to something that looks more pretty. So font family, I will give this one. And now I will do some usual style. So display of flex, then flex detection of column, then align item center, and then gap of 8 pixels. Okay, looks much better. Now for our input, I would like to give the width of 300 pixel and the height of let's say 30 pixel. On top of that, I would also like to increase the font size to 1.25 rem. Okay, looks much better, I would say. Now for our button, that is for both the add and the delete button, I will do font size of 1.2 rem, and then we will also do a padding of 8 pixel, then a background color of black and a color of white, and let's remove the border also, so border none. And border radius, let's give little bit roundish, so border radius could be 10 pixel. And lastly, cursor pointer of course. Okay, so buttons look much better right now, I would say. And we will also do a button hover, and we would like to change the opacity. So let me give the opacity as 85%. So how does this look right now? I would say it's much better than what we had a moment ago. And lastly, for our to-dos, we will also be adding few more things. So to do, we will be adding display of flex, and then let me add a width of 350 pixel, a height of let's say 40 pixel, then justify content space between and align item center. Okay. Also a background color of Gainsborough, some border radius of 10 pixel and padding of 8 pixel. Okay, now I think it's good. And lastly, let's also increase the font size. So for P, I will do a font size of 1.25 rem. Yeah, that's all CSS we need. Now everything is up to our JavaScript. So first of all, we have to identify our DOM elements. So I will do a let input equals to document dot query selector, and I would like to select our input, and then I would like to select our add button. So add btn equals to document dot get element by id, and we have add. Now I will create one empty to-dos array. So to-dos equals to an empty square brackets, and I will create one function async function, not fn, because this is JavaScript. And let me name the function as get to-dos, or let's name it list to-dos like we had in the backend. So list to-dos. So what list to-dos will do will basically call our to-dos and print it. Not print it, it will call our to-dos and store it in the to-dos, and later we can update our to-dos. Now inside there will be one try catch. In the catch part, we will have error. Had trouble fetching to-dos. And then we can basically print our error. And otherwise, inside our try part, we will have one response from fetching from the URL, and the URL is HTTP. We all know that 127.0.0.1 colon 3000 to do's. And when we have the response, we will have resp.json. This is simple JavaScript stuff, we all know. And we will have some to do's. So let me do a log to do's also. And lastly, we also have to call the function. So get, not get, list to do's. And if I do a refresh now, we have, okay, this is 300, it should be 3000. Yeah, so we have an array with two items, and we have write Rust code and write TypeScript code. So that means our code works. And now we have to add our other functions also. So we have one add btn. What we have to add is add btn dot add event listener. And on click, we want to add our to-do. So we have access to event e, but I think that is not required. What we want to do is basically post to do. And now we will have another function called async function post to do. What this will do is again the same. It will take whatever we have is as the input, and then it will post it accordingly. And inside we will have something called to do body, and this to do body is basically our input dot value, and then we will have another response that will be await fetch, and this time we have the same URL, but the method is a post. So let me simply copy this thing. It will be required in many places to do's, and then here let me specify the other things. That is, our method is post, and our headers will be content type application JSON, and lastly our body will be JSON dot stringify, and whatever body we are passing, that is basically title, is our to do body. That's it. And what we can do is basically declare this thing here and then pass the to do body here, and then get the to do body from the post to do, and inside we can wrap everything inside a try catch. Let me keep everything here, and in our catch part we will simply do a console log error. So console log error posting to, and let me console log error, and this thing should be valid only when we have some when our to do body is not an empty string. So when to do body is not equal to an empty string, only then you do a post to do, otherwise no. So now let's see. Let me write Python and do an add. We don't know if anything happened or not, so we will go to our postman and do a get to do's. And as we can see, there is a write Python. So now let me do one write, let's say, write Mojo, because we have already added Python many times. Not sure if it is coming from where. So let to get to do's once again, and we have write Mojo. That means it works. Now let's add the delete to do's. So I will create another function, async function delete to do, and it will have no parameters. Inside I will have try catch as usual, console log delete to do has some error, and let's console log the error. And now inside my try I will be having one response, and inside this response let me copy this thing once again, await fetch, and then this URL, and the method is delete. Actually this is not this URL, this is this one slash our ID. So we actually have to pass our ID. So let's say the ID is this, which is passed from here, and we are deleting the to do of this ID. The method is delete, and the headers is the same, that is content type application JSON. I think this is good for now. Now only thing is we have to pass the appropriate ID, and that is something which can be done only when we are rendering the to-dos. Now the methods, I mean by default it should work like this. So let's create another function, and this will be a normal function, not an async function. And this function will be render to-dos, where we will basically be loading all our to-dos from the to-dos array. And what we want to do over here. So first of all, we have to create our to-do. What we have created in the HTML, we have to create the paragraph and the button, and we have to add accordingly. So inside the script.js, let's say we are getting one to do, or T, let's say. This is a to do. And this is basically the information from our to do's array. So for our to do's array also, we have to basically loop over it. And for every to do, we have to call this render to do. So that is also something we should do. So to do's dot for each. And then we have one to do, let's say. And for every to do, we will be calling our render to do's and pass the to do. And maybe it is actually better to do this thing after we are getting our to-dos. So list to-dos. Here we have all our to-dos, and here we will do this thing. I think this is better. Now this render to do's is not doing anything, but we will make it do a lot of things. So I will start by creating one to do, and this to do is basically our document dot create element, and this will be a div. And the to do has the one class name called to do. So to do dot class list dot add, we will be adding a to do, and then let me add the text. So document dot create element once again. We are creating a paragraph, and then text dot inner text will be our basically we have a T, and from inside the T we will have a title and ID. So it will be T dot title. Then we will be creating one delete button. Let's name this thing as dbtn, and this will be document dot create element. It will be a button, and this dbtn will also have a class list. So dot class list dot add, and the name of the class is delete, and it also has some text. So dbtn dot inner text, this is delete. And lastly, we have to render, and also the dbtn has the delete method associated with it. So dbtn dot add event listener, and the event is click. In that case, we have access to E, but I think that is not required. What is required is calling the delete to do with the t.id, which is basically the ID for that particular to do. So now what we need to do is to do dot append child. We will send the text and then our dbtn, and lastly we have to append the to do into our body. So document dot query selector, we are selecting the body, and then we are doing an append child, and we are basically sending our to do, right? Yeah, to do. So now let's see. So we have write JavaScript, write Rust code, and write TypeScript code. If I refresh, things are as it is. If I do, let's say one delete TS code. Now if I refresh, the TS is gone. So I think one more thing is required, and that is whenever we are doing a delete or add or anything, the page should be reloading, and that is something we can do very simply. So we have our post to do, and before the catch, what we can do is location dot reload. Now let's say I will write ts and add, and as you can see we have the ts here. Now the delete will not work, of course, so let me simply copy this thing, and inside my delete before the catch do a location reload once again. So write Rust code, it's gone now. So things are quite smooth now. And we actually got no CORS issues because we have added all of this code over here. But what happens if I, let's say, remove this layer, CORS layer? Let's see what kind of errors we will get. So let me just save it, and we have to rerun once again. So I will come outside, and I will do a cargo. I think there is some issues happening over here. Yeah, now it's good. So cargo run. It will be building, and it will be throwing lots of issues. So let's wait for some time. Yeah, so our app is running once again, and we have access to fetch at this location from origin. See, we are trying to access 127.0.0.1 colon 3000 from 127.0.0.1 colon 5500. So it is considering these two as different websites, and what it is saying is it is basically not allowed to try to access one URL from another URL in case the root websites are different. So it's like you cannot do one fetch from amazon.com to a google.com, and this is one dev environment, so we are basically allowing this thing. So this is what CORS policy is, and this is quite annoying unless you know how to resolve it. So this is how we can resolve our CORS. Basically we have to write this line. Now everything will be gone, and I would say that's it for this video. If you have found this video interesting, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It gives me a lot of motivation to create a lot more videos like this. And once again, I will see you next time.